for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out.
Greetings.
Yes, we are here with brother Neil Frazier, and I had to cut my other computer on. I had so much gadgets going on over here. We can see your face full of. Okay, this thing is popping over here. It's like all the computers want to have a hand in the sound. Wow, we are 2 days later after last Monday. 2 days go by and it's Monday again. I made
That's amazing.
Yes, yeah, because
you did, huh?
It'll be back to back. But yes, the title of the show is very intriguing. You being here with your energy and these different backgrounds you're offering us to see the different looks of brother Neil Frazier, aka Metamorphosis. It's a wonderful thing. And we all look forward to this Monday. It's a special day when you're on, and then later on Positively Angela. So it's going to be a lot of information shared, and you really bring it. Now, people are filling in. They're going to miss the first part, but they're going to have to go back to the beginning. Okay, now we have 30 people in. It's building up. Let me start again, brother. And I guess the floor is yours, and I'm here with you. I'm eager to hear it.
Okay. Well, thanks again, Brother Lance. It's always great to be with you and the family on Monday. Always the highlight of my week after coming off the weekend. I look forward to it.
Likewise.
And I want to give a hearty greeting to all the family in the chat room. This is an interesting subject. In my latest research, I uncovered something new that's fascinating in regards to these two laws, which basically go hand in hand as one. And so I'd always been curious about some of the things that I had learned about the process of germination and manifestation. But as always, I want to apply it to melanated people because we have the strongest electromagnetic connection to the universe than anyone else on the planet. And also we know we are affected at the emotional level more strongly than anyone else on the planet. But, initially, when you look at this divine law, and we'll separate them, we'll deal with germination first. That the process of germination is for something to be produced from a seed. And as always, we always look at everything on the three planes of existence that we operate on, which is the physical, the psychological, and the spiritual planes. Sometimes we give more energy to one or two of the planes, but very seldom do we give energy to all three of them. The thing that's important to remember is, although they stand in separate manifestations in terms of the physical, psychological, and spiritual, they are still all intertwined because one brings you into the essence of the other. So the interesting thing that I found out, hey, sis, how you doing? The interesting thing I found out about the law of germination, its principles, and the actual germination process itself is that we've always been told that you need three elements in order for a seed to germinate. Fertile soil, sunshine, and of course, water. However, after digging and digging and digging, I ran across a study that was quite intriguing. Many people may or may not know that all things, okay, in nature are separated just like we are by the amount of melanin it possesses. So this is consistent throughout nature in all elements, regardless of what that element is. And also, the level of manifestation of that particular seed or element is based on the direct relationship it has to melanin. So with that said, this study that was done, actually a seed was able to germinate in a lab, okay, without being placed in soil, in the ground. However, it was necessary to have the two most important elements there, which was water and light. But it even went a little further. So the seed was placed on a paper plate in the lab with the elements of water and also with light. But the other two elements that came into play that was produced from this experiment was air and warm temperature. So I began to think about the actual germination process when a seed is put in the ground. And when you think about it, the going in the soil actually, more so than anything else, represents a form of darkness, and I'll tell you why in a second. But also, it provides warmth, which is very critical to this process, because nothing germinates in the cold. We know this from the first law of thermodynamics. Okay, and also we know from thermodynamics that all things stay in a state of inertia if it is not put into motion. So it's basically dead. But it was so interesting that the ground, more so than a necessary element to assist in this process, was more like a incubator for it. But without this fertile soil in a lab, this seed that contained a certain amount of melanin was able to germinate and manifest whatever the seed contained. And so I began to think about, and then the other part of the experiment was they cut the light out. It was total darkness. And this is what blew my mind. The water element was still necessary because nothing will germinate and grow without water. So I thought about the fact that human beings, we can live without food, but we can't live without water. And so I began to see sort of a bigger picture here in terms of the germination process. And I'll talk about a few other things that's a part of this process when we move beyond the physical aspect or the physical plane into the psychological plane. But again, this seed was able to germinate in darkness, in a lab, with only water. And it took me back to this book I read a long time ago called The Primordial Waters, where, there was nothing but darkness and water, and then life sprung from this. Now, when we take it to the psychological level, we know that there are three things that have to exist or come as a result of the germination process in your own personal life or in our own personal lives. That is, it takes time, it takes energy, and it takes effort. So, unlike the fast food generation that we've been raised in order for a true germination process to take place, you have to have the element of time, but you also have to have the element of energy. There's some type of energy that's necessary for this process to begin. And this is where we see the power of melanin and that process being available in order for this to happen. And then there has to be effort. So even in nature, even at the physical and the psychological level, there has to be some type of effort put forward in order for the germination process to begin. And why is that important to us as a people in terms of how we move forward every day, every week, every month, and every year? Is because you have to have effort and energy and not just time by itself, because a fruit does not manifest overnight. So it takes this process. In fact, a fruit doesn't manifest until after it's grown on a branch, after the tree has grown. So these processes have to take place in order, and it's the same thing in life and our relationships with each other. One of the mistakes that we make, and I get this, I comprehend the reason for this, but it still doesn't change the fact that the principal dynamics involved in this that was established by the Creator still has to be in place. So you may have an idea. You may have a great idea in terms of you wanting to put it out, plant this seed. Of course, we always say you have to plant it in fertile soil. Well, psychologically, that fertile soil is your consciousness. But now we have the element where we know that a melanated seed doesn't even have to be planted in soil. It can be in total darkness, okay, with water, with no sunlight, and still manifest. And that was a fascinating revelation for me, because, of course, we believe that nature is our greatest teacher here at the Academy. And so we're always looking for the deeper meanings and mysteries in nature that we are supposed to be able to grasp. And so when I began to think about just darkness and the effects of darkness and why darkness has been, let's say, downplayed, for lack of a better word, over light, is because, again, we understand that this has something to do more with a ideology than it does a actual reality of our lives and how we live and how we germinate. The other important, and the reason why water is so necessary and why it's so necessary for Black people on a psychological level, I'm sorry, on the spiritual level, is because we know that water is the one element that binds all of us together. In a spiritual sense, we're all in the water together. And that water carries memory. And so our genetic memory bank, and this is the way I looked at it from a spiritual perspective, is that the greatest thing that we possess as a people, because of our 12 neuronic melanoids here in our brain, is that we have a genetic memory bank that's like water, okay, that connects us back to our ancestors in antiquity and also gives us the power that we have today to germinate. Now, let's look at this from another perspective. It was another element introduced in the lab that was very critical. Well, there were two more. There was oxygen or air. Okay, and when we think about oxygen and we think about air, we think about breathing. We think about the essence of life itself. So whatever seed that you have in your consciousness, rather, or in your spirit, okay, you have to breathe life into it. There has to be a component of oxygen or air. Without that, any controlled setting, okay, nothing will happen. The last thing that was very intriguing, and this is when I saw the relationship between what the soil, one of the reasons why we always say fertile soil is because fertile soil has the element of water, which is the main nutrient in it, as we explained earlier, there in the ground, either through an aqueduct system or just from the natural fact that water is in the ground. So wherever the water comes from, it's not important. It's the fact that it's there. But it was the necessity of warm temperature, and you can see from the different frames when the temperature was warmed up that you can begin to see the melanated seed now begin to react just to the warmth. And so I thought about one of the things that we have lost as a people is the warmness towards each other. So everything that's taught to us and told us, it's in direct opposition to our natural selves. So when you look at the elements of fire and ice, okay, we know that this is a major contrast. So as they begin to turn the heat up and it got a little warmer, you could see the seed actually sprouting. And so when you lose your element of warmth, okay, towards each other, which is the strongest part of your melanated cells when it comes to relating to each other, then now you have taken away a principle in nature that really is one of the impediments to us growing forward. And this is a very important lesson for Black people because much of the power that we possess it lies dormant. In fact, one of the definitions that I have seen for germination is the process of moving something from a state of dormancy, okay, to manifestation. So now we can see the relationship between why things seem to always be the same for us decade after decade and century after century, and why we seem to lie in a state of dormancy is because this critical element of warmth, even in the etherical world, okay, even in our psychological existence, has such great power. And when you think about the fact that we are fire children or children of the sun, then this all makes sense. So now you can see why the constant programming of giving our people this low vibratory emotion of being cold towards each other, or that I don't give a fuck attitude that has been taught to our young people, it's a way to take away this power. And so these are some of the impediments to why we are not germinating, okay, into our full capacity. And when we germinate to our full capacity, then we will see things begin to change and move forward for us and manifest, which we'll go into in a second. But these elements that were introduced to me were very powerful. I had to look at them again from a different light because certainly no one expected or expects a seed to grow in total darkness, okay, without being planted in soil. I mean, the first time I encountered it, it blew my mind. Now, I was aware of this, but there had never been any solid proof or study that was done. Okay, and so I usually, if there is no scientific proof or natural proof, then I usually, wait until I can find that, no matter how long that takes. So let's go back to the beginning of the germination process so we can kind of process this ourselves. So we know on the physical plane that when you put that seed in the ground, give it water, give it sunlight, and over time, it will put roots down and grow. But now we know that beyond the physical plane, at the psychological or the conscious level, and by the way, our reality is what we create from our own conscious. That's why I always bring up this fact that the archetypes and images the symbols and images that we see and that go into our subconscious and become archetypes are very important. That's why you have to have the symbols and images of people that look like you, because then you cause a schism in your own consciousness. It's very detrimental to the germination process. And these things all help to explain why our growth is stunted. Because there is a dynamic that comes into play, and when they put these elements into play in the lab, you could clearly see the more they turned that temperature up and it got warmer, that you could see the seeds responding to that. And it's the same way with the human spirit. Okay. When you move beyond this physical body, and your conscious and spirit is now connected to this energy, this germinating energy, and you introduce the element of warmth. This is why you have this massive germination and manifestation that takes place as a result of this. And I had a very fascinating experience with this myself this weekend, where I was able to, a friend of mine, she and I agreed to, just share warm things with each other. And it totally changed the dynamic of how we were communicating with each other, just from the fact that we were saying things and being warm towards each other, and our spirits were connecting. It changed the whole dynamic of the conversation that we were having. And so I realized after talking with her that this is something that is weaponized against melanated people, because again, we have on every scale and on every spectrum of light, color, sound, okay, that we are at the top of this manifestation. But because of the weapons that have been brought against us, all of these elements of our 720-degree metaphysical existence is lying dormant. And so this, you can tell I'm real hyped about the fact that I discovered that warmness actually, I mean, it was like the seeds. So prior to them turning up the temperature in the study in the lab, I was like, there's no way that this seed is going to sprout with just them, letting the water fall on it constantly. This plate, okay, is totally dark. There's no sunlight. And I was amazed at this. So I thought about it again in the sense that how important it is for us to comprehend certain things in nature, because even when they shut the light out on us, psychologically, economically, and all the other ways that they use, in the medical world, scientific world, all the other ways that they use to dim this light, and in many cases cut this light out and put you in total darkness. We still have, melanated people still have this capacity to germinate, and this was a very fascinating revelation to me. There is no way in 100 years I would have thought that this could happen in total darkness. So there is a power even in darkness that we don't comprehend. And, I'm going to continue to do research in this area because when you associate not just physical matter darkness, but when you associate psychological and spiritual darkness, we still, now we can see that we still, and psychological darkness can be explained in terms of depression, hopelessness, despair, anxiety. All of these things can be looked at now in the sense that this is a form of what we know as darkness, or what has been taught to us as darkness. But what if this was actually light? And what if we actually know as darkness was actually light, and light was actually darkness? It's something to think about, particularly the way that the color scheme is used psychologically against our people with the light skin, dark skin thing. So it's something to look at. But certainly the process of germination takes on a whole new meaning and perspective when we know that even so-called darkness without light, sunlight, can still cause you to germinate. So no matter how deep you get, okay, in terms of your depression, in terms of your despair, in terms of your pain, within that pain and despair and darkness, we'll call it, is still the seed and the energy of life. Now, now marinate on that for a minute. So that means no matter how far down we are put, that within that element of pain and darkness and suffering itself is the very essence of life. And that was a powerful revelation for me, brother. Because so many times we look at things with this 90-degree scope, not realizing that that's just one aspect of the total picture. And certainly when you start looking at divine laws, you have to start looking at it in all of its different spectrums over time. And so we have to include the divine law of gestation, which is the divine law of timing, also plays a critical role in this germination process. And you know my favorite song, I'm not going to sing it, but we also have to take into consideration that things don't fully germinate until all of these elements are put into place. So you may be moving along in the germination process, but until that other individual who is supposed to be or is destined to be a part of this process actually shows up, then you know there's a missing piece to the germination process. This is why, again, I always hop on this because this is something that's been used against our people to our detriment, is that you cannot individually manifest. That is against every law in nature. But you are told this to dilute your strength of being interconnected. Even when you look at what I like to call the cosmic consciousness, or when you look at the what they call the Akashic records, it's the same concept, or the divine law of oneness. It's the same, and you can see this when you go to the quantum level because everything is chaotic. There is no definition that you can give it to make it a rational way of seeing this, because if it was, then you know you would understand the intricate mysteries that only the creative spirit knows. It's revealed to some of us, it's given to us in plain sight, but again, you know, we have to seek these things once this is revealed to us. So it's sort of like there's a blank page until you become aware of something. And once you become aware of it, then the pages begin to fill up, because now you're putting things into motion because you're aware of something. Psychologically, physically, and spiritually, you're putting these things into motion. And all of this is a part of the germination process. And I'll move to the manifestation process after I make this point, which is very important to comprehend. That without water, the one element of water, then nothing will absolutely happen. So even if we did plant it in fertile in soil, okay, without water, even if we had sunlight, okay, that seed would still not germinate without water. Now, let's move to the spiritual aspect of what this means in terms of water. If you ever watch how the current flows in a river, you know, it's usually going one way, but it's not going that one way by itself. It's being blown by the wind. Okay, so the wind is responsible for blowing the water in a certain direction or in a certain current. And this is the same thing that exists with us, is that when these different winds in our lives come, okay, they are blowing the water in a certain direction. But you have the power to even affect the wind or the wind gusts that's affecting your life, and the direction from whence that wind is coming. Okay, so for instance, to give you an example, if you have, and usually this comes from a person or a group of persons, or it could come from a movement, it could come from an ideology, it could come from a theology or philosophy, anything that you believe in that moves you in one current, like the wind does with the water, is a form of wind in your life. And so one of the things that's consistently done with our people is they'll use something. They'll use a word, for instance. Let me take a look. So you have this individual that sees himself as some type of, I don't know how a person could be in a position of authority over people and choose one set of people to degrade, spew hatred towards in order to appease another set of people. You're not a real leader. You don't deserve to be president of the United States with this type of ideology. And when you use a simple word like woke to try to change the wind direction of a whole nation of people, then you're pretty much like a peon. You're not even someone that should be in a position of authority. So when this type of ignorance is directed towards our people, we have to look at the source of this wind. And we know that you're not being a real leader. You're being someone that's kowtowing down to other forms of hatred and bigotry because you want to maintain a position of power. So that X's you out in terms of any power that the creator, creatrix may give any individual to be a leader in any nation. I just wanted to say that because, you know, for some reason, these people think that they can just say things about us and we're not going to say anything back. But you're ignorant. You don't deserve to be a leader in the United States. Okay, and anybody that goes along with this type of thinking, they should not even be a part of any leadership in the United States. And I wanted to make that very clear because, again, we're not going to have our people being treated like they're nothing before the world. And you stand up there with your chest poked out with your recessive genes thinking that you can continue to degrade our people. So I wanted to get that out. But I want to come back to the process of germination. So this is why we cannot allow these political pundits to blow this wind, okay, and then we all just flow down this river, okay, without trying to change the direction of the wind. And all of this is a part of our germination process because, as I explained in the video last week, we can't get around the law of polarity because everything that we do as a melanated people, we have a natural open enemy that's trying to stop our germination process, which they have no ability to do it, only through words. And then when you give the power to those words, that's when you succumb to that energy. So for melanated people, we must continue to create our own narrative and let that narrative germinate over time, give it energy, and put some effort behind that. And it takes numbers, okay, in order to affect things on a larger scale. You may be able to affect things on a local level with your voice, but you have to have other people that's germinating and vibrating at that same frequency in order for something to manifest. Now, let's move into the stage of manifestation. And I constantly hear Black people saying that, you know, nothing is growing, nothing is manifesting. We're not seeing any results of anything that we have tried to do. I even hear some people saying that even our collective efforts or group efforts have not yielded anything, you know, that we can, you know, look to and point to and say, okay, this is something that we have manifested. But I want to look at a different aspect of manifestation. So the definition of manifestation is to create something, an idea or philosophy or ideology or whatever you want to label it, and to cause that created idea to now become a reality. But one of the main things about manifestation is that there has to be a specific goal in mind for you to move beyond the creative aspect of it to the manifestation aspect of it. And why is this important for melanated people? Because this is the one area more than any other area where all of the weapons are brought to bear against us to stop the manifestation of this great melanated force. And believe it or not, the only thing that can be done is for it to be delayed and passed down. It cannot be stopped. But again, as I always like to say, is that we are the ones that are actually stopping it because we have the power to cut this off right now at this generation. But 90% of our people are going to pass this down to our next generation, maybe 95%. And, you know, I know some people may think I'm coming on too strong with these, but go look at the statistics. That's what I do before I say anything out of my mouth. One of the things that I really studied over time is I looked at why all of a sudden now is there a breakdown in these Central American countries that are forcing people to migrate here. But this was by design. And I'll tell you why this manifestation was by design before I get into how this translates to black people and the manifestation that we are going to bring forward. So we know that this same playbook that has been used for centuries, okay, where you have religion and then you have the labor class, and those two elements of the Communist Manifesto is what the American capitalistic system, okay, is built on economically. Latino people, the people that are coming from Central America, are just as religious as black people. Okay, in some cases, they're more. Anywhere you go here in the Bay Area, you see them on the street corners preaching. You see their churches coming up everywhere. Okay, and that was the intention of bringing, of crushing their economy, to bring them here and to bring this religious fervor back, where we know that certain people want to be looked at as gods and as saviors. But this one element of religion now has been brought back to America through these people that they're bringing here. Because when a people are depressed and in need, they're going to look to a savior. And this is the playbook that they use. They take all your resources, make you dependent upon a savior, and in many cases, you're looking at them as a savior, okay, to replace the fact that black people are waking up. So this is why they're degrading this word woke, because what they're really saying is, now that you're coming out of this spell religion and this spell that we've had you under all these centuries, we have new people that we're bringing in under this spell that's going to do the exact same thing that we made you do, and we're going to replace you. That's the game plan. And again, you know, this is a wicked, evil system of human beings. Okay, they're more concerned with fiat prosperity, where they can keep making this fake money over and over again on the backs of poor people. So they begin to do, if you look back, you can look back as far as 25, 30 years when they begin to destabilize these countries, you know, and they make it seem like, I mean, when you look at it, right, they're putting black and brown people against each other, but it's not really us that is causing this problem, this issue. This is the playbook that they're using to try to save the destruction of what is already being manifested. And that is the destruction of this fiat money and this evil system that they have put together. It's already crumbling. It already has crumbled. But they understand the principles of manifestation, and that has to do with putting something in motion. Okay, even if it's bad, even if it means sacrificing, what do they call it in war? Collateral damage, or what is it when they choose the ones they're gonna save and sacrifice the rest of them? Okay, there's a term, I'll think of it in a minute. But when you're at war, then they don't use all the resources on the people who are wounded to the point that they can't get back in the fight. Okay, they use those resources on the people that can recover from their injuries or their wounds and then get back in the fray. Okay, so you may be able to hear, I'm outside downtown, you might be able to hear some of the people preaching right now. And see, this is the same playbook that was used against our people. I can remember back when my dad and other religious people used to have what they called at the time revivals. They set up these tents in different cities, and people would come there, okay, looking for some type of hope. I really hope you guys can hear the background, because this reminds me of what took place 60 years ago. And I can remember how our people back in the day used to do the exact same thing, stand on these corners with this religious lingo and preaching to people. And when you look at the immigrants, they're and they're like shell shocked. It's almost like when you just come out of a war zone. So something happened in their country, okay, that we don't know what it is, but when they get here, okay, it's almost like them coming to paradise. And this is the scenario that they want to set up. And then the main reason why they're bringing them to black communities is simply because no matter what anybody else says, that black people have the most compassion of anybody on this planet when it comes to helping other human beings. That's one of the reasons, but the main reason is to destabilize what little communities we have left, or now in this case, neighborhoods or hoods. You lose the neighbor. So they intend to manifest something from this collision that they're causing, okay, in the black community with brown people. Mark my words, in less than 5 years from now, there's going to be a manifestation of such great proportion of the labor force battling against each other, and this is how they want it, okay, that there's going to be a great outcry from the people, because we can't sustain the current way that we are existing here in this country. It can't be sustained. This is a fact. All the economists know this. Anybody that knows, Lance, you talk about this a lot. Anybody that can see, okay, into the esoteric realm knows that this is just a matter of time for this manifestation to take place. Now, the reason why I want to talk to black people about this is because we cannot, again, we wait until something is manifested to react. We cannot continue to do that, because this time it's going to be so devastating that I fear we may never recover. And again, I don't like to be a pessimist, okay? But now we have to move beyond the way we think about even these words, pessimism, okay? Because that's just a form of stagnation. Okay, we have to begin to be proactive. Again, I don't understand why someone like LANCESCURV, okay, and Mrs. SCURV don't have $1 million in donations from our people. This is something I can't understand. So in many ways, we choose our own manifestation, but then when the manifestation that comes forth is not what we want, then we blame other people rather than saying, I have the power to do something about this right now. Because I know that Lance gets at least 1,000 people looking at his videos. If not, it's probably a whole lot more. I would say it's more like 20,000, but it's clear what they're doing to him. But the issue I have with my people, and I don't care if people get mad at me or not, that we keep sitting back. This is one thing I always say that I love about California, because California is 10 years ahead of whatever else happens in the country. I can see what they're doing. I can see our people sitting back and not doing nothing when these other people are just manifesting everything. But the one way that they're doing that, even if they give $1, that they are helping each other. Trust and believe that. Nothing's going to manifest for melanated or black people until we change our attitudes towards each other. Okay, we can talk all of this nice metaphysical stuff, and we can talk all of this stuff that makes us feel good, you know, which is really just transferring that emotional religious feeling that we get from church to something else. There's no reason why, I guarantee you, most of the people that hear this video are going to go out today and spend a minimum of $20 on something. The difference is when you talk about manifesting something, people in other cultures, they'll take $10 of that and give to each other for a cause, and then they might use the other 10 for what they want. The difference with us is we're going to go and spend the whole 20, and then we'll sit back and listen to Lance and listen to the other people in the platforms, or, you know, whatever. And I'm not referring to the people in the chat room. I'm talking about when the video goes out and other people hear, because I know the family supports. I'm speaking mainly to black people as a whole, that the reason why we're not manifesting anything is because we're not putting anything into motion. And in a capitalistic society, that vehicle is fiat. Okay, so there's no reason why on a weekly basis, as hard as the LANCESCURV Black Network works for our people, that he doesn't have a minimum of 10 grand a week. When I look at what some of these people are getting that's producing this nonsense that our people get caught up into, I see why people have this attitude towards us. You know, and so when we talk about manifesting something, we know just from what I explained about all the different elements that were involved in the germination process, and even in total darkness, we have the capacity to do this. Even the fact that we are put in total darkness, economically, socially, any kind of other way, on television, in the movies, wherever we are, we have the power to change that. I don't know very many people, okay, that would take our money and do the right thing by our people than Lance. I don't know very many people that would do that. But yet, even with this knowledge, I'm talking about even beyond me and what I'm trying to do with the academy. He's someone that I would trust to give money to first. So we can't keep sugarcoating these things. I know people want to hear things about the good part about manifestation and all the metaphysical stuff that our people now are transferring their energy to, okay, emotionally. And this can become like a defense mechanism, okay? Again, it's good to deal in the metaphysical realm, but we don't live on a cloud. We live on this planet, okay? On this planet, we're going to have to do some specific things in order to bring those manifestations into fruition. So, Brother Lance, this is going to be a short one for me today, brother. I just wanted to come out and highlight a few things. I know that it's good that when we encourage each other, okay, but I'm a firm believer in what the old folks used to teach us, is that sometimes we need tough love. Because when you sugarcoat things, it's almost like you have a veil over your eyes. You're not really seeing the true picture. And the true picture is we are still stagnated. We are not manifesting. And we are not manifesting because we are not putting our collective energies into motion together. And this is not just in America, this is global. Okay? We cannot keep fighting over these things, okay, that have no intrinsic value to us. We cannot keep having these itching ears and want to hear about what's happening with Jamie Foxx or Will Smith and all of this nonsense that's constantly being uploaded to us, or who's beefing in that evil music world. Who cares about that? Nobody else cares about it. So now we must have a paradigm shift in order to manifest, because the way it's looking, we're not going to be able to manifest anything. That's how it's looking. Because the individuals who we are told that we should support actually don't have the type of love and concern that the SCURVs have for us. So, you know, today I just wanted to really hone in on this fact that our manifestation, even in this darkness that we're living in, when things are as bleak as they seem, just like that seed in that lab with nothing but water, no sunlight, total darkness, which I'm still shocked. I'm going back to do some more studying because I'm interested in the elements that exist in darkness, which we know there is an element of electromagnetism that doesn't rely, specifically on light. So I hope that this is, shed some light on the divine law of germination and manifestation. I know that one of the things that I try not to do is use the same talking points that a lot of people use in terms of how they associate the law of attraction with manifestation. And really that's a misnomer, because that gets you focused rather on putting things in action into waiting for something to be attracted to you. And that can be a very slippery slope when you put the law of attraction, which I see many people do with manifestation. And in many ways, those two laws should be separated, because it's sending two separate messages. On the one hand, you're saying that I can manifest whatever it is in my conscious that I feel strong enough about to put some type of energy in motion. But in the same breath, you're saying, but I have to attract the things I need to do this first. So you see where that kind of like contradicts each other. And so, at the end of the day, we're going to continue. I know today is the celebration of Juneteenth, but physical freedom has nothing to do with spiritual and psychological freedom. Okay. And it's fine if you want to celebrate some wins, which you consider some wins. But I just don't see it that way. So that's the reason why I don't celebrate this day. I fully understand why our people celebrate it. I encourage you to do it. I just choose not to because of the psychological effect that it would have on me. Because I know that our people weren't free because they had to go right back on the plantations to work, for another 150 years. So I just hope we can focus on the things that we need to manifest, and a lot will change for us. We got to get rid of selfishness, for one. We got to get rid of this thing that we have been taught by these low vibratory entities, where I don't want to see my brother or sister progress because then it makes it seem like I'm a failure. I'll give you a perfect example to explain this. And look at your own human body to get the understanding and comprehension of this. What if your arm said, Well, why don't you use your legs to do what I do? I'm taking a break today. How would that work out? Or vice versa? What if the arm said, well, the feet said, I'm taking a break today. Get the arms to do it. Or the arm said, I'm taking a break today. Get the feet, your feet to take you wherever you want to walk to. You'd have a real problem. What if your ear said, I'm going to stop working and everything you see, you're going to have to go on that? But guess what? When you can't hear, then you become deaf and dumb. So you know, the thing is every one of us is important. When our brother elevates or our sister elevates, we're supposed to elevate too. But again, we are taught this by people who have all the resources that you're trying to emulate that you cannot. Okay? A person who has access to all 100% resources can afford to say, I can pull myself up by my bootstraps, or I can do this individually. Of course, but they still don't do that. Everything they do as a collective body. You're the only people that have been taught that you have some type of, that this gives you some type of crown on your head when you think of yourself as being independently wealthy or independently anything. That is not how the divine laws are created. That is going totally against it. That is why, again, we have not and cannot manifest anything, is because we are not living according to the principles of divine law. And that is the main reason. In fact, if you were able to put the low vibratory emotions like selfishness, envy, jealousy, deception and manipulation, if you were able somehow to put those things aside, then we could build and manifest. We could say, okay, we're going to get 1,000 people to send $10,000. To send $10 to the LANCESCURV Black Global Network every week. That's an easy thing to do. But what prevents you from manifesting this? These same low vibratory emotions that you have been taught, except for when you go to church. Then you give them all of your money. I forgot to bring that into the equation. But other than you going and giving these counterfeit spirits your money in a death trap that takes that same money and give back to the same people that have you in the condition you're in, which I don't understand why we continue to do this behavior when it has been proven to our detriment that this is the number one thing that's preventing us from manifesting anything. Okay. Find a black organization that you see helping and working with black people that are literally putting the money out and the time and the effort to make, I don't care how big or small. Here's the other thing too. Our people get caught up on this big and small. Let me tell you something, okay? Every corporation in this country or in the world started from some point. They had to build with a team. They had to build with employees. Okay, they had to build. If you don't believe it, just go back, even look at the people that are revered in American history, like Henry Ford and these people, or Coca-Cola. They started with a cart. A perfect example is when you see the Latino people out here with these carts and whatever, and you see them 2 or 3 years later, and they got a big truck, but now they have a storefront. Because the people didn't they supported these little carts. They buy tacos and burritos every day. They didn't say, oh, that's not a legitimate corporation. This is what's holding our people back. I see this so much every day. Okay, it doesn't matter if you're running a damn mom and pop operation, as long as you're building towards something. But you still, in order for this to manifest, you still have to have the elements of germination in place. And so, with that, brother, I'm going to close again. I'm sorry this is kind of short. I'm working on a few things. I don't know if you're there or not, but maybe you're taking a well-deserved nap. But I'll continue to talk about some of the things that are necessary for us to manifest. One of the real things that we have to go back to is having some type of mission or purpose that's attached to something. If you don't have a purpose or a mission that's attached to something other than having a Gucci bag and wearing Armani suits, now it's okay, again, it's okay for you to have these things, but it should not be at the top of the priority list. And this is one of the things that kind of stunts our manifestations, is that we put our value into the wrong things. Okay, and these are things that we know already, that we talk about a lot, but we fail to move on it. And so let's look at another aspect of manifestation, and why this is so important. Let's look at distribution. Okay, whenever something is manifested, then it has to be distributed. Okay, because if it's manifested, again, it can lie dormant in a manifestation state. So once whatever it is that we're going to manifest happens, then we have to look at the distribution channels of that, or for that manifestation. This is another area that we must, since we're not manufacturing anything and we're consuming 98% of what we do, then we have to look at the fact that, okay, if we're going to consume, let's at least look at distributing something. One of the areas I'm looking into now for the Academy is the import-export business. Because at some point, and I had a conversation with a friend, and she was saying, well, Neil, do you think that you should just continue to, take your message to black people? And because, I mean, there are certain people that know or can see the fruits of, the fact that, our people don't support each other like other cultures do. And she said, I think you're making a mistake by just focusing all of the energy and curriculum on black people. And I had to think about that for a minute. But then there comes this reckoning that you have to have with yourself. Again, for me, I know that if I did that, if I walked away from my purpose, which is to uplift black people, that first of all, I'll never be satisfied with. It doesn't matter how much money I got, but that this is something much greater and bigger than just dealing with the issues of black people. This has to do with the fundamental fact that I am a part of a eternal plan that is rooted in the primordial seed, which I am a part of. And that if I disengage myself from that, then I would never fulfill not only my destiny, but also my personal destiny. And so that was something I really had to grapple with, because when we talk to each other and we get different perspectives, we have to take it to heart, okay? Because as we always say, and as is always repeated here and on the songs that Lance play, we are in a war, and more importantly, we have weapons that are weaponized against us that we can clearly see, but it's like we're refusing to acknowledge them. Okay, it's almost as if we're saying, okay, you go ahead, you attack me, you wipe me out, and I'm just not gonna, put up any resistance to it. I'm not gonna formulate any type of offensive plan to manifest something to combat this. It's almost like we're just lying down, and it's very troubling because, like I said, much of what happens in the nation and manifests here in California first, and I can clearly see from all the different cultures that I engage with on a daily basis and I come in contact with. I can clearly see where we are making our biggest mistake, and why you may feel that you're manifesting something individually, but then that individual manifestation does not germinate with any of the other things that will help lead us out of the conditions that we're in. So one of the most pressing things that we have to do right now is just support each other. That's the number one thing we have to do, because you can't, you're limited with what you can do and how effective things can be done without the support of people, that are looking at whatever it is you're manifesting and saying, I want to plant a seed in that, or I want to water that, or, I want to give it sunlight. But now we know that even if the sunlight is taken away and you're just getting the water, okay, we know that that's enough, okay, to bring something into manifestation. Okay, so we need to reevaluate what it is that we want. What is it that Black people want? And not just continuing to fight. And I get caught up into that too, like the video I did about the real global criminals, because some of this stuff, when it cuts you, you don't have no choice but to respond. But now we have to go back to what the solutions are for us. And the number one solution for our people, if you just look, and I know people, I don't know if they get tired of hearing these statistics, but we need to say them every day. We spent over $1.8 trillion, not billion, trillion dollars buying from other entities. That does not help to manifest anything for Black people. We still have to look to certain entities in order for us to have economic solvency, when we have the power to change that. Okay, we have the power to change that, believe it or not. Okay, we don't have to wait to attract you know, certain things into our lives to do that. Okay, we just have to put something into motion. You know what I mean? Put something into motion, even if it's some form of barter. But we have got to learn how to economically trade. And one of the things that I decided when I began to do the import export is I'm going to trade with whoever want to trade with us. Okay. Um, we will not be able to grow and sustain the institutions that we are trying to build by waiting for something to manifest. That's a decision that I made. And so our platform and our curriculum will still be directed towards the needs of Black people. But now I have to move outside of our economic spectrum because then we would go the way of our ancestors in terms of how things end up in the end, without the purpose being manifested to the point where it's making some kind of impact on the younger generation. So I will be trading and reaching out to people from even different countries. Because another conversation I had with a friend who basically that was the thing that saved his business, is that he began to trade and do business with people from other cultures. Is because you know, I don't know what it's going to take for our people to come out of this. Certainly, again, you know, we have everything that we need in order to build our institutions, to build our Black media like Lance. We have this ability, but it's the selfishness, okay, it's the envy, it's the jealousy, it's all of these low vibratory emotions that we have picked up that is detrimental to our growth and development and manifestation as a people. And so again, you know, I knew today that just the fact that we have to talk about this, and that it's not, in a way, it's a form of encouragement, but it's probably not the type of encouragement that our people were looking for in this particular presentation. But I made up my mind last night that I wanted to talk directly to you all about the things that are directly affecting us in terms of our manifestation, and why no matter how much you germinate, that in order for that manifestation to take place, there has to be at least water involved. But if you're not watering anything, then certainly nothing is going to grow. So I think maybe Brother Lance might be out of it. I'm not sure. Hey, brother. Yeah, I'm good. If maybe I can get some people in the chat room that want to talk. Not sure. I don't have the interactive. Of course, I'm using my phone, and I do see the comments from time to time. But if somebody want to put a question out there for me or a comment, I can look at it and then comment on it, or we can have a discussion about it. Not sure, but anyway, I'll just continue our conversation. So why it's important to really look at the principles involved in divine law and not just to live according to narratives is because when you're moving and living according to the narratives that we've been given, then we don't we don't look at the full spectrum of what's being directed towards us. It's almost like having tunnel vision. So I'll take myself for example. Whenever I see something that catches my attention or comes into my awareness, or whenever I talk to someone that gives me a different perspective on something, then I always I always go back and I look at it in terms of where that individual is coming from. What is the source of the information that they're bringing forth? Um, what is the circumstances surrounding while we're discussing this? And more important, what does it mean to that individual in terms of what we're discussing? Because again, you have the three planes of existence that we are on: the physical, the psychological, and the spiritual. If a person is just, say, looking at it from a spiritual perspective, or just quoting scriptures from the Bible, or any type of religious organization, or what have you, then I immediately look at how this person translates this into the psychological and the physical manifestations of what it is that they're talking about in the spiritual realm. And one of the things I find out when people are just dealing primarily from the spiritual realm is that they close their eyes to the other two planes of existence. They close their eyes to what the psychological ramifications of what it is they're feeling spiritually, and then the actual physical reality of this energy that they have, the spiritual energy that they have. And the interesting thing is, the people that are able to problem solve the most, believe it or not, are not the people that are vibrating on the spiritual level. It is the people that are vibrating on the psychological level, okay, that have the ability to look at both the physical and the spiritual manifestation of something. And that comes when we begin to allow our consciousness to be fully engaged in the total spectrum of the energy we're dealing with. For instance, if someone said to me that the only way to heaven is through, the things that, Christians believe and, other people believe, then immediately I look at it from a whole different perspective, because I want to know, what is it that caused you to accept this on a psychological level without questioning anything that pertains to that particular ideology, philosophy, or theology. So if you tell me, well, I over several months, I had conversations with different people, spiritual people, and this is the conclusion I came to. Okay, I can respect that. If you are making a choice that you have thought about, that you have consciously weighed, both sides of the spectrum, all right, and that you've looked at how this applies to you as an individual and the people that you're connected with, then I have no problem with that. But if you tell me that, someone spoken tongues and you received some kind of spirit, and then you decided to accept this ideology or theology, I have a problem with that. Okay, and one of the things that comes as a result of this is you immediately shut down all of the other conduits that are presented to you to bring certain energy and knowledge and wisdom into your life. So what has happened with our people in terms of us germinating and manifesting certain things, specifically economically, and then you have the social economic effects of this. But particularly, again, it's the mindset that was created when we were told that there's some type of glory in saying that you are independently wealthy and that you are the sole reason why something has been manifested. That is completely against what nature teaches us. If that was the case, then you could have single organisms producing stuff or birthing something. And you may have an exception to every rule, but it's just an exception to the rule. It's not the norm. The other thing too, with following narratives in terms of our own manifestation, is that we are looking to manifest whatever it is we're doing according to that blueprint that has been set before us, which is totally different from the blueprint that we should be following. Because even if you manifest it based on that blueprint, it's not going to be the same in terms of your own prosperity, for lack of a better term. It's not going to yield the same fruits, I should say, using a natural term. That it's not going to yield the same fruits because it was designed to yield fruits for a specific group of people or culture of people. And if you're using that same ideology, okay, to get those same results, then how does that apply to you as a melanated individual? It does not. What black people have done effectively is convince themselves that if they achieve and manifest the same things that the dominant culture has, that means success for us. And see, this is the other thing that we have to look at. What is our standard of value? And more importantly, who establishes this standard? In many cases, if a black man or woman establishes this standard, then we don't feel it's good enough. And this is a major part of our lack of self-worthiness. And so this is why it's very, very important for us to establish our own standards and values to reach for. Because if we don't, then we are living according to the rules and standards and values of another culture. And what you yield from that, the value of that culture or that dominant society, in many cases will isolate you more from those that look like you. Okay, because those values, okay, are not consistent with what's inside of you. So we have a lot of things to really, and it's not difficult. These things are not difficult to do. It's just our mindset has to change. It's nothing wrong with being team black. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, without that type of mentality, you're always going to lose. I'm unapologetically black. Unapologetically black. Boy, that's a tongue twister right there. But I love that word because it just says that, look, I don't have to make an apology to anyone about what I believe, what I feel, what I do, why I do it, as long as it's in the interest of black people. I don't have to explain to anyone. I don't see anyone trying to explain to black folks why they do the things they do, or why they have this attitude towards us like they do, or more importantly, where this originates from. We all know where it originates from. We all know why it exists. Okay, so why is it that when we come together and formulate something to fight back against this, that you see this as something wrong? In fact, a being that functions on this level is a higher functioning being, because you recognize that in order for me to manifest anything for myself and those that look like me or are part of my culture, then I have to be in line or on code with what's important to us. Because more than anything else, and we've seen this throughout our history in America, is that the ascension of a very small percentage of black people have no impact, okay, on the majority of black people living in this country. So, you might have maybe 0.5% or 1.5% of black people that have broken through the ceiling. That people can say, well, hey, look, so and so is so and so and so and so. But when you weigh it against the scale of Mayat, then we immediately see, okay, that this is unjust, okay, and that I think this is a fair statement. The majority of our people are in economic distress. And I say that not that they can't make ends meet, but maybe 1 or 2 paychecks away from disaster. And that's simply because we don't have a safety net built into our own culture. We don't have to wait for anybody to give us anything. We have the power to establish this. I do recognize that we have trust issues, and those issues have prevented us from building at a larger scale. Because we all know that there are certain fragments of our culture that will do anything for this fiat money. Will basically sell you down the river, for this fiat money. And this is always in the back of the mind of every black person, that that if I contribute to this situation or this particular movement or what have you, whatever it is, then somehow I'm going to lose out in the end. And this is a attitude that I still am very curious about, um, because certainly we can't maintain this posture of not trusting each other enough to begin to build together. Even if you, and here's another aspect of that. There are people that I found out in other cultures, they don't even, in a lot of cases, want to know what you're doing. As long as they know that you're doing something, they're going to contribute to it. They don't have to know the intricate details or how we've been taught, what bank you bank with, who you, what are you doing with the money. Now, they should know what you're doing with the money, but that should not be. When I see a homeless person on the street, I don't ask them what they're going to do with the $5 I give them, or whatever amount I give them. I never ask that question. That's not for me to decide. But if you have an organization or a business that is serving the community, then you are beholden to that community in terms of showing some type of growth and development, showing where the money is being used and where it goes. You have that responsibility as a organization or as a business when people in the community support you. But what I'm talking about is if I find a black business that has a cause that I want to support, it's not up to me to dig into like how we've been taught by these people who the first thing they want to do is dig into your background and tear you down, find any way for people to distrust you. You know, this is the MO that they use, that our people have become masters at this, where you can't look at a brother or sister that has something established and say, you know, it doesn't matter what they're doing as long as they're making an effort to try to uplift the community here. I'll support that. And these are the simple things, believe it or not, that we have the power to do. And, just the experience I had this weekend um, really taught me a valuable lesson, too, when it comes to our people and how we view this war that we're in, or how we don't view it. And, so, yes, manifestation. Um, and the other thing about manifestation is, well, let's go back to germination in the seed to explain this the right way. Now, as always, we know the law of polarity, that there are opposites to everything. So just like the seeds that are germinating, that are righteous and have the righteous energy, then that same aspect of the seed could produce unrighteousness, or it could germinate unrighteous energy, in which we see develop in our own culture, that we have been germinating with the wrong elements, and those elements have produced a lot of what we're fighting against today. wonder if Brother Lance is let's see if I can get back in.
Yeah, I'm here, brother, just
Oh,
behind the
you
scene,
there?
making sure everything's all right.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I'm hooked back up. But I was just talking a little bit about why we were not manifesting year after year and decade after decade, why we are not manifesting, and why we find ourselves in the same predicament, all of the time. And one of the main reasons is because of our approach towards this war. That if we're not willing to support those who are on the front lines of this war, then we're going to continue to get crushed. And again, our people have been convinced that individual victories mean more than us winning as a collective. And that's one of the biggest deceptions that have been used effectively against our people, because so many of our people, once they have achieved what they view as success, then they're just content with going back into a state of inertia and not using what they have manifested in order to distribute it to other melanated people. And that's the area that I was focused on too, as well, is Black people. We spend a lot of time in the germination process, and while it does take time to germinate, we also have to move beyond the germination process, okay, into manifestation. Now, again, it's not that we're not manifesting, it's what we're manifesting. Okay, and the reason why we're manifesting things that are not supportive of us is because we are still living according to the standards and values and narratives of another culture. This was something that Dr. John Henry Clarke warned us about repeatedly. Okay, is that we continue to look to other people to set these standards and these values when we should be creating our own standards and values, because we are manifesting, but look what we're manifesting. Look at all of the things that we're manifesting that is continuing to hold us down and to anchor us into this sort of like death trap. I hear people saying all the time, change your mind and and attract the things that you want in your life. All that sounds well and good, but nothing replaces old-fashioned action and effort. Okay, because without those elements, we know that we can't manifest anything. That has been proven. Anything that will help us in our growth and development as a people. We're still too sensitive to what these other folks who have spent their life trying to tear us down are saying. Let them say whatever they want. We have to concentrate on building what we have. We have to start this process right now. Okay, and that process is very simple to start. Just choose 2 or 3 Black organizations that that are doing something to change the trajectory of our future, and what the future is going to be for our younger generations. We have that power to do that. But if we continue to keep manufacturing and manifesting the things that we are, then we are helping in our own demise. We are bringing, because there's no way around this. Um, you don't just manifest good, you manifest bad as well, or evil, if you want to call it that. Okay, because again, the seeds do not differentiate. It's like the brain. The brain does not differentiate between what's reality and what's not reality. It only moves according to where your consciousness is. And the things that that are important to us, it seems, has nothing to do with building and growing and manifesting our own institutions and our own black media. Um, you know, and it takes time, it takes effort, and it takes finances to do that. Um, so, again, one of the things that is always a constant battle is that we know that our people are weighed down very heavily every day. So you don't want to become, somebody that participates in, banging on our people's heads. But there are some conversations that have to be had and need to be had that doesn't always have to be about, and I don't know if people may take this the wrong way, but encouraging or inspirational to make you feel good. Because one of the things that feeling good does too, it puts you in a state of, of stagnation. I feel good, so I don't have to do anything else in order to make something happen. As long as I'm feeling good, then, and that's because of all of the pain that we have to deal with. And that's constantly uploaded to us. And this is too is by design, because one of the main things with human nature is the avoidance of pain, regardless to the source of that pain and regardless to how that pain is manifested. We are constantly trying to avoid pain. So one of the weapons that they use against our people is emotional pain. Okay, and this emotional pain does a lot to stifle us, but we spend so much of our time. Okay, I just wanted to read that comment that came across. I just saw it. Let's see. We are all past asleep. We are the Duracell battery powering this fake existence on the higher as pointed towards self. Okay, Riri, that's a good statement. I like that analogy. Yeah, we are past that. And we are the Duracell batteries just by the fact that we have, melanin. That is the Duracell battery right there. But what I found too is that this same great power that we possess can also and has been used against us to our detriment. Because this power and energy that we possess, when it's given something of a negative element, then it's just as strong. Okay, everything is about the self. Everything begins with and ends with the self. Once we take care of the self, we take care of everything. I love that mixed genre faves or faves. I love that. That is so true, because you can't help other people until you help yourself. Okay, and this is another trick that has been used on our people. You know, we can't save the world. Okay, we have to save ourselves first. And once we save ourselves, then we put ourselves in the rightful position that we were created to be in. You know, I say all the time that, you know, we are the guardians of the universe. We are the primordial seed. We are the original peoples on the planet. But with that comes great responsibility that up until this point we have been unwilling to grasp. In fact, we have given this responsibility to other people, and those other people, um, you know, there's no need in even going down that road today. You know, we just need to stay focused on ourselves, as was just mentioned. Um, we need to take a critical look at why our actions are the way they are when it comes to building each other up. Why is it that we have this tremendous inability or blockage when it comes to this area? What, what is it? This is moving into the next level of warfare. Uh, this is why you see these people who are warmongers. They're constantly giving these other countries money to build their armies up and to have the equipment that they need in order to fight these wars, whether it's just or unjust. And see, somehow we have failed to recognize that the same thing has to be done in regards to people that are on the front line of these wars, that they need to be sustained. The supply route needs to be sustained. Have you ever seen an army go into battle and they don't have a supply route? Because once that supply route is cut off, then they're going to lose that battle and possibly the war. Okay, and again, we don't have to be in this position. This is a choice. Okay. One of the things that Kanye West said, which I don't agree with, but there's an element of what he said that, if it's applied at the right time of history, does have some significance. But the time that he was applying it to, our ancestors did not choose to be in slavery. But if he was to apply that same ideology to the time that we live in today, I would say, you know, there is some substance to that. It has to be. Because now, again, if you just look at the statistics and the records, it's where our people are putting our money that's preventing a lot of the manifestation. When you look at the dominant culture and their major corporations, you'd be surprised at the amount of money that's given to those. It's not just profit, okay? They have individuals on a mass scale that supports them, okay? And we know if they ever got to the point where there's going to be any kind of failure, the government is going to back them up. And black people, more than anybody I can think of, don't need this. Okay, we don't need the help from anybody. We can be self-sustained. It's just our mindset towards each other. And you can get 10 people in a room, and all of them will have a different goal. Now, this is where this point is very important. Each one of those 10 individuals can and should have a different perspective in terms of how the goal is going to be reached, but the goal has to be the same. And our issue is that we got 10 different goals instead of 10 different independently people working towards the same goal. and that is there is a tremendous difference with that. Um, so one of the reasons for that is that, again, our standards of value vary depending on our individual experiences. But one thing that doesn't change and that's consistent with other cultures is that doesn't matter. Okay. And you know, there is a serious psychological attack that have been done to our people. Imagine what it would take. Let's say if I was an alien, I came to this planet and I had the ability to observe and break things down. I would I would immediately look at the fact that here you have 3/4 of the people on the planet are dark, and then you have less than 1/4 of the people on the planet that are light. But yet, amazingly, the people who are light dominate the people, the 3/4 of the planet that is dark. And I remember something Amos Wilson said that in order for this to happen, out of necessity, that a large portion of the people who are dark has to be participating in whatever game that the people who are light are playing. And that's the number one thing that the aliens see. And then they look at the avenues in which these things are supported. All they have to do is go to the black church and they say, aha, all of the fiat is coming out of there and going right back to that small percentage of people. If that could be cut, if that one thing could be cut, they already have the solution. It would change everything overnight. Maybe not overnight, but in a week's time, I guarantee you. And I always like to use this comparison that Martin Luther King was a great man, is a great man, but I guarantee you that nothing would have happened if those people wasn't willing to start their own Uber, which you know is Uber, to walk to work, some cases 2-3 miles, and not ride one bus in a whole year. Not one bus. I don't care how much Martin Luther King preached. They had bombed 4 little girls in the churches. They were sicking dogs on our people and hoses. All of this stuff they were doing. Martin Luther King was preaching and doing all these things. But it was when they decided to come together and fight back with that economic plan, game plan that they had, that changed everything for our people. And the same thing exists today. You can preach, we can have all these nice, inspiring talks all we want. Ain't nothing going to change. Nothing's going to change. So when we decide and we choose that we're not going to stay in the economic condition we're in, that our children are going to have a better life than what we have been subjected to. And that doesn't mean you living in a $20 million mansion and riding around in a Rolls Royce. That means building. Of course, again, you can have that if that's what you want. But what it means is us building the institutions, media, and what have you that we have, like Lance, okay, building the academy, like what I am doing, or any of the other businesses of people in the chat room. That means that we are the ones building, okay? And I remember something Dr. Jewel Pooptrum, Creatrix, said one time. She said, we shouldn't even, because one of the presenters with her looked kind of disappointed that the people weren't buying the books or whatever. And she was like, why do we even have to ask our people to purchase books from our own people that we know will help them build whatever it is they're trying to build? Why should that even be a question? Why should we have to ask people for cash apps for LANCESCURV network when it has produced this volume of work for our people for over 2 decades? Why? This is crazy. Why is this even a question? So this is where we're stunted in our manifestation. This is where we have to grow. This is the one area we have no problem giving this money to other people. This is on the record. We have no problem with this, giving money to other people. But when it comes to building our own black media, we have a problem with that. Why is that? That is baffling to me. I mean, whenever I think about that, I see that baffles me. How did our people become so selfish to this point that don't even want to give a damn dollar to all this information that's being given to them? So I have made the decision. I have to trade with other people. I can no longer put all my eggs in the basket and hoping that our people support the academy, and you know, we have products that still are on the table that people from other cultures are saying, hey Neil, you know, let's hook up, let's do this, let's do that. I'm gonna start taking some of these people up to task, because as you can see, I'm not getting any younger. I don't know of anybody that's getting any younger. But that was the best decision I made after the symposium I attended this weekend. I opened my eyes and I talked to a few other people. You know, it's still going to be, my curriculum is still going to be Black Think Tank curriculum. But we're gonna start looking towards you know, other cultural people that can see what we're trying to do for our younger generation and see what we're trying to build. I'm gonna begin to branch out in that area. So I don't want no black folks talking about, oh, now he's dealing with, you know, these other people that he was talking against and blah 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 blah. No, for 3 years I've given our people a chance. And I've towed this boat on my own. For 3 years, I can no longer do that. And when I look at my brother Lance, I don't understand. I'm nowhere producing nowhere near what he's done for our people. I can't understand. I just can't. And I ain't going to try to anymore. But as far as manifestation, it's not that we're, again, it's what we're manifesting, okay? And what we're manifesting is at the detriment of our people moving forward, because the people that are coming to this country, again, you think because they can't speak English that they don't understand how the power of fiat in a capitalist society. You are wrong. These people, they make less than a quarter of what we make, okay? They come together, maybe 10 of them will live in a house. I've seen this. Okay, I've lived this, I know. They take that money, they buy food, they buy their necessities. 2 or 3 of them might have cars. They make sure they get to work, pick them up. These are things black folks used to do. We used to do this. What has happened to our people? I mean, with the 3rd grade education, our people accomplished all of this stuff. Built Black Wall Street and all of this stuff. There are no more excuses for us. And I can't, in all honesty, as much as I love my people, I can't come on here and sugarcoat stuff like that anymore. I just can't. Because now we're facing a issue where, again, I see this every day, that if you just walk around in the cities you live in, you'll see the plight of our people. It don't have to be this way, but it's because this way, because we have been sold this bill of goods about independently being independently wealthy, which is something that cannot be done. Let me say this again, that cannot be done in this country. You have been told this, you have been lied to and deceived about this, but black folks are in a world of trouble. Okay, we are in a world of trouble, and it's simply because of the selfishness that exists with our people right now. It's at an all-time high. Even if you don't like Lance, there is no reason why, you know, his platform in black media shouldn't be bringing in 10 grand a week. I don't know how much he is, and frankly, that's none of my business. I'm just saying, using him as an example, because he does so much for all of us and his wife, and the sacrifices that have to be made in order for this to be done. And I was talking to, and this is so crazy. I was talking to the guy from the Philippines, and he was saying that one of the things that he was very surprised about is the way that black people treat each other. And the selfishness, he actually used that word selfishness. I was like, wow, other people can actually see this? So now we have to do a self-examination of why it is that if we have 1,000 people that can't give $5, and then we can go out to a mall or go online and spend $150 for something we don't need from people that don't look like us, but then turn right around and complain about these same people or complain about the conditions that we find ourselves in. No. That day, that little boy, little girl day, that's over with. Mm-mm. We are making conscious choices to manifest what we are manifesting by our actions. And then we turn around, and when those same actions come back to bite us in the ass, then we get mad at everybody else. And you know, I'm speaking from my heart, I'm speaking from love. Okay, and again, our people don't like constructive criticism. This is why they have this emotional attachment with Jesus, because Jesus ain't gonna make you do nothing. Okay, you can go and put $100 in a church basket or read a scripture, and then you don't feel like you have to do anything else. But Jesus ain't gonna come to you and say, hey, why are you not supporting other black organizations? I'm coming to you and saying that. Or Lance is, and whoever else is saying it. So we kind of wrap this up, The other thing that our people are doing to each other is scamming each other. Okay, this is, the low totem pole of our manifestation. And this is one of the root causes why our people don't want to support. But when you look at the track record of someone like Lance, then there is no excuse. Okay, now again, I've been the victim of a major scam within this year. But the thing our people have to understand is that this is a part of doing business in this country, is that unfortunately and most of the time it's our own people, we're gonna get scammed, or we're gonna get people that take advantage, take our time as weakness. This is going to happen, okay? But we cannot lose our resolve, okay? Just like in a war, as I was saying earlier, there are casualties of war. I'm trying to think of this term that really will bring home this point about how when people get injured on the battlefield, they only use the resources to save the ones that can go back in the battle and fight the war. Okay, they don't waste the resources on people who are either unable or unwilling to get back in the fight, or to get in or stay in the war. So, what is this term I'm looking for? It's wow, I'm drawing a complete blank on this term. Maybe I'll think about it before I end the presentation today. But all of us, if you're black in America, that's been a victim or a casualty of this war. If you personally haven't, then you know somebody, or you know somebody in your family, and that should be enough right there, okay, to make you want to do something. Because things are not going to change because we are, inspiring each other and encouraging each other. And certainly we need to continue to do this, but you can do that all day long until some type of action is taken for something to grow and move forward. And so, I just want to leave this with our people today, is that we are making choices, even when you don't think that you're making a conscious choice. Your actions is the choice. So, or your failure to act is the choice. But both of them is a choice. Either you're failing to act, or you're refusing to look at the reality of what you're dealing with. All of this brings forth some form of manifestation. And brother, with that, I think I'll wrap things up. I think I'll wrap things up.
Okay, brother. I appreciate it so much. You're so generous. Time, very much. It was about an hour and a half ago. You said, "Well, I'm going to wrap this up," and you still gave it. Buy one free.
Yeah, brother. Just some things I was involved with this weekend that really kind of opened my eyes more to why we are in the condition we're in. And to be honest with you, brother, it is a form of selfishness that has developed in our people. The question is why. This is what we have to ask ourselves. What is it that it's jealousy, being envious of someone, and also the selfishness. It's those three together that has really produced this manifestation that we're currently experiencing now. And when you talk to people from other cultures, they're constantly saying, "Man, come out of that crap. Come out of it." So you're gonna die and take what your purpose is to the grave with you if you continue to do that. And it's hard when you are privy to the things that we are as black men to hear other people say this. And the one thing that I'm always fascinated about is other people know the conditions that we're in the conditions of our mind. I don't know, maybe it's because, what they see on TV or different interactions they've had personally with black people, but they know what the real issues are. What they're baffled about is why we continue to, accept this and then, operate in this craziness. This is what baffles them. So, I just wanna say to our people, this has nothing to do with not loving our people, but this has more to do with the fact that now we have to have some real straight conversations. If you want to go and hear things that make you feel good and stuff like that, that's okay. You need that every now and then. But we got to do the hard work that now is necessary for us to change the energy that we are currently functioning in. So I'm going to do a little bit more research on a couple of subjects, brother, that I'll be bringing in the future for you. And I'm going to do my Cash App donation to the SCURV Media Network soon. I want to make a substantial donation, and we just have to take a different attitude and course towards where we're headed. Pretty much. Yeah.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much. And even as a collective, for those that all of us here in the chat room may know, anybody who's on fire, anybody who speaks the truth, I'll gladly showcase them here, and collective force that whether as or not, the knowledge is what we want to share. For me, because watch you, brother, and all the years you've studied and all the years that you have experience, you share it so freely here. That's what it's all about. I'll work tirelessly for that, to roll out the red carpet for those who can bring it. And I tell people, I challenge anyone. I'll do it. You know what I mean? You call me, you connect with anybody who brings it. This is what I'm here for. If no one is here, then I'm gonna be cheap filler and fill up the slots, but I'm always here.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't take no wooden nickels, that's for sure.
But when the real comes, I'll step aside and work behind the scenes and get everything ready. All you have to do is just, come on in and just share it. And anyone here, if something hits you in the middle of the night or in the middle of the day, it's a thought, even if it's just 15 minutes or something you want to say, or you don't want to go live, well, record it, send it to me. I'll put it up. I want to have continuous bricks and stones to throw at the oppressor and the oppressed mind. It's not just the oppressor, but the oppressed mind. And that right now in this day and age, all the information we have and access we have for connectedness, even though we're viewed and watched and observed and shadow banned, we can get the message out to each other and connect to each other, on a divine level, and keep each other amped up, because it's not easy out here. Not. People who may love the truth, but they can't do much for themselves, and family who's not too legit, trying to come tear you down, and people at work, and your mental and relationships are going wrong. There are things going good out here, but there's a lot that we have to deal with once we step out of our front door on a psychological level to maintain the intensity to fight against that oppressor and the oppressed mind that can wear you down in the middle of the night. That doubt, that thing that speaks to you, says, well, this might be a little too hard to do. You got to constantly fight. I understand that. I have to go through that. Not the doubt part, but things coming at you, you still have to keep your eye on the prize. Not to just cliche thing going on, but you do. You have to keep your focus. It's like the mailman who has a dog biting his ankle. I still got to get to that mailbox and deliver that mail.
That's true. Yeah.
For
sure. Yeah, you're absolutely 100% correct, brother. Because it's so much that can get you sidetracked.
Yes.
Yes. It's coming full steam ahead.
Yes. We got to keep our mind game on. We got to be on top of the mind game. And then with the emotions, we got to use those emotions and turn them around and convert them into energy to help fuel what we have positive in our mind. And we got to keep our bodies up. Sometimes you want to do something. You say, hey, do I really have the reserves to do something? I mean, the other day I stayed up and I had some things to do. We did some Brother Ison and I did a little show. I stayed up. I stayed up all the way till 5 in the afternoon, and I was exhausted. My reserves were spent, and I understood saying why, but I had to take time to still build my reserves up, which I'm still doing now. So you know, you have to gauge yourself with what you have in your tank to keep the fight going. You don't want to take the cake icing and spread it on just one side of the cake. Now you ran out. You gotta spread it all over and be consistent.
Right.
You know,
and make some more icing. Yeah. Right.
You go. That takes energy, right?
Oh yeah, even that takes energy, man. You know, and it's just a thing where we have to continue to hammer in on this point, because it's like we're waiting for something to drop. You get that feeling where our people are waiting for something to drop. You know what I mean? And this comes from that again, that savior mentality that's been drilled into us about waiting for something to come out of the sky, or waiting for, you know, for whatever. But we certainly have the power to manifest this if we choose to move as a collective. If we just, you know, take one thing and say, and I remember John Henry Clark saying this, that if you get 1 billion people, even if they do something wrong, it's going to have a major effect on the world, on the planet. So we know. Yeah, I remember when I used to hear religious people, and my parents used to say that you know, if you put something into motion, okay, it's going to manifest something, whether it's good or bad. So if you're following a certain teaching, this is the point they was trying to make. If you're following a certain teaching, okay, and you get enough people to agree with that teaching, then something's going to come out of that. It doesn't matter, you know, it may not be what you were expecting, but something is going to be manifested from that. And our issue is, we don't seem to be able to get enough of us together to affect something. And you know, it's kind of baffling in the sense, I know one of the reasons is because of the head nigga in charge syndrome, where, you know, rather than, you know, all of us bringing our particular gifts to the table, we're spending the majority of our time fighting over who's going to be at the head. Everybody's at the. Now I realize you do have to have someone that is the main administrator or organizer, or whatever name you want to give to that particular responsibility. But it doesn't lessen what the other people bring to the table, just like the analogy I was using with the body. The legs are no more important than the arms. If you think they are, you try to get the arms to do what the legs are supposed to do and see what happens. So,
Exactly.
you know, yeah, all of us have a tremendous amount to bring to the table in order to move us forward.
Yeah, and we can shine all kinds of ways, different ways. It may not be the same.
Absolutely, we can.
Look, we may have a gathering. We may not have as much money by ourselves, but collectively we can do it. It doesn't matter who gives more or less. And then now, once we do that, and we pick a gathering place, it could be under a tree somewhere on a day that it's not going to rain.
Absolutely.
And that woman who may not be the most eloquent speaker, but she can cook her ass off, we'll give her the food to, you know, cook that and bring it. Now we may have a man who doesn't have much going on, but he's an eloquent speaker to convey the message to the world of what we're all about. And then you have another person who doesn't want to be up front, but he could be an administrator and do the paperwork to get the message out. And then you have some brothers out there, all the muscles in the world, and they can clean up the area and get it ready and hit the streets with the flyers to get the message out. So we all shine and represent what we have in our heart. Whatever you have, bring it. It doesn't always mean too, like just give this one person money. But what I'm saying is that we will be organized and bring what you have. So the person who may be able to get up there 5 minutes and they might stutter a little bit, but they have an amazing message behind it. That's what it's all about. And we're here to help each other to shine in their own way. I might shine in one other way, but I'm here to facilitate you to get up on the platform and shine in your own way.
The problem is that we have been indoctrinated to want your shine. So if instead of creating my own shine and bringing my own shine to light, I'm jealous of the shine you're bringing forward. And then not only that, I want to take that shine from you. I don't want you to have that.
Exactly. That's the problem.
That's a mental illness.
If we had more people come together and showcase each other and the people that are there, they can't shadow ban anybody. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
This is crazy. It's hard.
I want to take your shine. I want to take your quasar away.
Right.
Not only do I want to take it away, I want it for myself. And then I don't want you to have it, or I don't want you. You know what I mean? Oh, that damn Lance! I don't want. I don't want him for people to give him the shine.
After a week and a half, you don't see him no more. If it lasts that long.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, it's a serious mental illness, but I just wish there was some way to overcome. And then on top of that, I can see, because in a sense, it's a part of human nature in the way we've been indoctrinated to want to have some type of, to be looked at as someone that matters. Okay, nobody want to feel like they don't matter, right?
Right.
But then we go a step further where we want to take away what matters for you. We want to take that away.
Yes.
Push you in the ground, and then I elevate up here and say, aha,
yeah. But the only way to show that we matter is to uplift someone else and let them see that they matter. Undergird them. I don't care if I'm the bottom of the iceberg. If you're the peak of the iceberg, you poke over the water and show that I exist because you're above the water. You see what I mean? I don't mind.
That's a good analogy. I like that.
Things, but I want to uplift others to show. But lots of times, let me tell you something. It's like Dame Dash said, the people that you help, sometimes they end up hating you and they're not right.
Yes.
You see what I mean? So you have to be careful. Yeah. And like I said, put the work in on what you do. I cannot talk like you. I cannot bring this level of expertise like you do. I'm enjoying it. I'm sitting here as a student with a pen and a pencil, enjoying it. You see what I mean?
And whatever that level of expertise would be a non-factor if you didn't have the platform for it to be dispersed. So regardless of how you see yourself, there's always someone or something else that has to play a part in bringing that into manifestation.
It's a joy. Look, the way I grew up, I was born in Washington Heights, Manhattan, which was right above Harlem on 152nd Street. Business there. Whenever he would take me to get my hair cut, 5 years old, 6 years old. If I was 6 years old, that was 1969. If I was 5 years old, it was 68. All of the older were there, in the sense that they talked, I absorbed all of that. I saw how people came in. They say, "Oh, you missed the party last night. I brought you down some plates of food."
Right.
Food for people that she didn't even know. Different people. You had people from the Nation of Islam, people who were in the church. Everybody got along. And before we had the internet, they would speak things. Now, some would bring a little gossip or whatever, but the main thing, information flew. Pertinent information flew. It was a joy, and that's the world I know. That's the world I want back. If it's not good, I'll create it here. And so that's why I welcome anybody to walk in through the storefront and say, "Hey, this is what I got to share." And even those barbers, when there was stolen goods, they would come say, hey, we don't do that here, man. Don't ever come back here again with that. But some people, a good word to say, hey, let's chip in for Sister Shirley up there. She had a stroke the other week. Let's put some money to help her family take care of her. That's what I know. I'm like, my mind goes back there when I play old music, and to myself, I say, what the hell?
Oh, yeah, me too. Yeah, what the hell happened? Yeah, what the hell happened? Yeah.
We had different things. I mean, oh my God, it was beautiful. It was beautiful.
Yes.
And it was so beautiful that the people who did things that may not have been morally correct still got along and still respected the people who lived there because they had to live there. You see what I mean? If the prostitute came and said, listen, I ain't been doing too good. In the restaurant, they say, hey, girl, come on over here and sit down and eat. It wasn't, hey, you got to give me this. If you needed food, we got it. Or somebody else paid for it. It might have been a dope fiend that was laying out on the curb unconscious. Everybody cared for him. They know what he was doing. He's the one who's going to help the person home with her groceries, some old grandmother.
Right.
Even though bad, it still came around to good. What the hell is going on? We got people who are doing well now, and they're just hating on. And from my point of view, maybe my point of view is different from other points of view. But doing this thing all these years, it's just terrible what I see. Like the negative vibrations toward each other. And like I said, it's not just the oppressed, but it's the oppressed mind.
No.
That we around with, where they laugh at us. They don't have to do nothing to us anymore as much as they do because we're doing it to each other. And we get up and fake and smile and turn around and talk about each other and hate any progress, any struggle. If you struggle with something, I'm here. I'm here to help. I mean, if it's an encouraging word that somebody has called me up in the middle of the night and said, hey, man, I really feel like taking my life. I really feel like killing my woman because I caught her cheating, whatever. And if I stayed up 4 hours talking, y'all will never see that. You understand? That's what we have to do. So this is not just a show or whatever. I'm real. I'm over here. I go through things. People have helped me. People have donated to me. Sometimes I've taken donations that were large and given it to somebody who couldn't pay their rent and they got their kids. That's how you know. I'm not going to sit here in trouble. I'll get the universal protection because I'm doing the right thing for my side with a person.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Who they
The
call
law of
haters.
compensation. Yeah.
I'm not in this for no competition.
Yeah. Yeah, me either. You know, that's the other thing too, is this competition between each other. They have put, but more than anybody else I've noticed, is that they have put black men against each other. It could be a simple point, brother, and they may blow it way out of proportion. And it really doesn't have any intrinsic value in terms of helping us build or move forward. It's just talking points. Who has the best talking points? Who sounds the best? This kind of foolishness, man, has really destroyed our culture, and it continues to destroy our culture because we can't focus on anything else except this foolishness, or whose point is more relevant than you. I tell you what, you take both of those people and you put them out in the street and see if whose point becomes relevant then.
Exactly.
You got to work together with that person to try to come up out of condition that you're in. Just like, you hear soldiers talking about being in the trenches, you look over and you see a black soldier and you white, you don't give a damn about him being black or white.
Right.
That's the person that's got your back that's going to keep you alive for you to get back home.
That's right. That's right. So my thing now is, instead of seeing those who are not about it, I just only see those who are vibrating the proper way.
Right.
Let's focus on each other. And like when the sperm hits the egg, that's such a minute looking thing in the triple darkness of the womb, but eventually in 9 months it comes out to be a life that can change the world. So let's focus on who are vibrating on that level, no matter how small it may be now, as a movement of energy. We don't know what that movement of energy happens to be after we transition, because we started something out, on the righteous. Keep it compact, keep it tight, and move forward. Keep your defense tight and throw those punches forward, and do it out of love. You understand? So that's my thing, and that's why I draw so much strength from those who are here You know, I'm not trying to be this, whatever. It'd be nice to have a million this and a million this subscribers. No, it's about, look, the knife has to be sharpened to cut better. You can have a huge knife, and it's not going to do anything at all. Give me that little knife that is sharp as heck. That just like on the
those box cutters we used to carry.
Yeah, now I'm not looking to cut nobody, but if it was like that, the cartoon, the person so much when they move, their leg moves one way, their head way, they fall down. Be sharp in what you do. Generate your energy and focus it that way, and keep it in mind and always live this thing, and you will create something that is bigger than you, that is still part of you and will go on beyond you. The last thing I want to say, I've said it before, it's like the stars in the sky that are so far away. They're so far away. And you look up and see the stars. And in actuality, it's so far away that that light moving at the speed of light, right? The star's gone, but you still see the light.
That's right.
I'm in this level so much that when I'm gone, you still see my light. That's your contribution level.
It's no question. Absolutely, Rose. Yes. All right, my brother. Well,
you always
got yeah. It's like you go shift gears. Like you know, you get that extra. You know what I mean? When I go, after the third round, and I'm like, and you really get that second win.
Well,
pick up that fifth round.
I can tell that even though you're sitting down, you know how to throw some hands.
Oh yeah. If I have to, I definitely know how to put them to work.
I can see that. All right, my brother.
All right, brother Lance. Peace and love. I look forward to talking to you during the week.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much. Okay, brother.
All right.
All right. Peace. That was a beautiful exchange. And I hope to keep it going like that. And it will. And I just want to let everybody know that we have Positively Angela at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that's 12 midnight for me over on this side of the world. But that don't matter. We're going to be here. I'm going to set that link up and make it happen. And if I can get in this shower quick enough, I'd like to come on and speak maybe for 30 minutes or an hour in between. I've been doing some other things, and that's what's keep me as much from doing it, but we'll have a full schedule this week, and we'll do. And since many like that little late night soft rant that I did, I'm gonna do more like that. I like to zone out and just speak from the hip real deep. When I did that one, the lights were dark, it was quiet, and I was zoned out. I was like on a natural high, and that's how I want to flow, on that level. And I want to thank everybody here who helps, shares the comments, and shares the work and all of that stuff. So it really helps and makes a difference. It's a beautiful thing, and I love you all. And the collective is what I'm all about. And Indigo King, it was amazing. Once again, Riri, Brandy, mixed genre faves who always keeps things going. Master Glam, Brandy Tidwell. I can't get every name. Blue Waters. I'm glad you enjoyed that show. It wasn't a show. It's just a late night. Not even a conversation. It was just me thinking out loud. That was the creative side of me that is still and quiet when I'm drawing pictures and stuff. And I'm just in a whole different zone of energy. Then I get hyped, so you all know my different manifestations. Sometimes I'm the angry black man. Sometimes I'm the older laid back black man, just giving a little wisdom and flow. And sometimes I'm just a comedian telling jokes. We have many different gears in our vehicle, our spiritual vehicles, and we have to use them, but to build. Laughter is a cleansing thing. Laughter, it clears the filters. The toxicities that build up in this fight, when you can laugh heartily, not just a high laugh where it's just a little thing, but if I can get down in your guts and make you laugh like, oh, damn, he said that. So we're going to have some shows like that. And I want everybody to understand that even when I speak on so many levels and I have to go there and I may get a little adult, it's not because I'm lewd. I'm trying to clean it out deep from inside and just talk some stuff and say some crazy stuff and make you laugh, and I love doing that. I love to serve in many different types of ways. It's all nutritional. It's all better for us. and we can share those vibrations no matter how far away we are. I'm over here in West Africa, but my mind and my heart is there, as well as it is here to build. But everywhere we are, you know, anybody who comes at any one of us, I want to save them. You know, we have a term in the hood where people talk about, oh yeah, Captain Save a Hoe, which means that some guys are looking to go after women to save them, but they really want something after that. Well, I'll be a captain, save a brother or a sister on the righteous way, because I want to see you all do good. I want to see you all vibrate high, and I'm not looking for anything in return. The joy of that, the satisfaction of knowing that you're validated in what you do, and you don't need validation from the enemy to do what you do. I don't need a certificate to be LANCESCURV. I decide what LANCESCURV is, and if I decide that it's going to be something good for our community, I don't have to ask anybody else for any validation or go to some school to get a course to be me. You don't need a course or certification or degree to help your people on some level, to uplift them on some level. How can somebody else know your journey more so than me, who have a similar journey and similar stresses and similar things that we go through? So we're made for each other. Let's stop fronting with each other and get down to basics and help each other up out of the gutter. I'm not saying we're actually in a physical gutter, but we can be in an emotional gutter. We can be inside a spiritual, mental gutter. Mental illness would not exist as much if we reached out to each other and just gave each other a mere hug, or said, hey, we're going to get together at the restaurant. We're going to have a meal later on. Make sure it's a restaurant that's owned by us. And the person may say, hey, man, I ain't got no money. I don't have no decent clothes. We'll all chip in. Okay, we're going to find a place for you to wash. We're going to get you these clothes, and we're going to give you some money to pay for it. And you're going to pay. You ain't going to, I'm not going to pay for it. I'm going to give you the money to pay for it so you can have some dignity. Yes, I'll pay for it, and all of us will pay for it, but we're going to, you know, the dignity thing. We got to boost each other up. I remember when I was working in the jail and in prison, there were guys that had situations where they were very embarrassed about. And even through just talking to them, it boosted them up. And you let them know where they stood and why they're there. I don't mean just the jail or the prison, but why they're there in that mental state of mind. And that you understand why they're there and feel the way they do. And you boost them up. Like, and when you make them understand, you understand where they are, then it unlocks that thing from them, the shackles, the emotional shackles, the mental shackles. You know, many of us are going through some really hard times right now. And people say, oh, well, each his own. If you ain't strong enough, we have to make each other strong. You take a little piece of thread. Little piece of thread is nothing. You could pop it in half. But if you put enough thread in a suit, it will hold all those parts together of that suit, and you can walk around freely and not know that you're going to be naked and out of doors if that thread pops. You see what I mean? So we have to be, we may not be strong on our own to do crazy monumental things. We are strong people. What I'm saying is that if together we can become that alloy, you mix two metals together that makes it stronger. We can't be stopped. And so if you have that spirit inside of you, have that feeling inside of you, and it's contagious, and you feed other people with it, you understand? You bring them up from where they are to where you are. And other people can bring me up from where I am to where I need to be, because I may not be the strongest. Somebody else can make me strong. It don't have to be a big, strong man. It can be somebody's old grandmama at the bus stop that gives me a few words that strengthens me. The strength will come. If you have the desire to do better, it will come. If you make the one step forward, the other positive force comes back 2 steps at you. So there's no reason. So even with the negative thoughts that hit us, sometimes we have to get away from where we are, walk down a different street, stop talking to certain people who want to feed into our head negativity. We wake up and we have no ambition. Oh, God, another day. What do you mean, oh, God, another day? It should be, wow, another day for me to be who I am and fulfill my purpose in a satisfying way. We're all that tool in the toolbox. We have different purposes. The screwdriver can't be the hammer. The voltage meter can't be the screwdriver. You understand? You got mallets. We can't use a hammer where a mallet is needed to tap something softly. We'll break it with the hammer. So we need to stop looking at social media. Some of us, I'm not saying any of us here, and we want to be the very thing we're not. What about us? What are we put here for? What are our gifts? What are our things that we have inside of us, the seeds of greatness that we can develop? Hey, maybe we can get better in an area that somebody else excels in. Fine. But find out what you excel in. I'm not going to say I can't, but But why would I focus on trying to be the best basketball player in the world and I'm 5'10", 240 pounds? You know what I mean? That's not going to happen. You know what I mean? So maybe there's something else I can do. Maybe I can write good. Maybe I can talk good. Maybe I can draw good. Maybe whatever. And then out of the things that you can do, you don't always have to use everything at the same time. Get in where you fit in. See? So that's what it's all about. We got to check each other. We got to check into each other. We got to check into each other to make sure that we're mentally proper, emotionally. We got to give each other tune-ups because nobody else is going to do it. It's too much garbage out here. Everything out here is to pull us down with the decadence, with the lack of self-respect. Imagine there are men that take joy in bringing their sisters to the oppressor for their twisted pleasures so they can get money. And they want to walk around and mac on that, walk around and make it seem like they're doing something important with that. What kind of mess are you talking about, man? We got to build each other up, protect your sister. You don't see them people that Kanye West had a problem with do that to their women. They protect their woman. They might come after your woman, but they're going to protect their woman. You understand? Women out here walking around like playthings, and we're applauding that. We got to stop feeding into that. We got to say, yes, you are beautiful. You have a physically beautiful body, but what is a spirit that's making you do this that really and truly is making you ugly? You see what I mean? It's a precious thing for us as men to be in the presence of our sisters. And it's not no hanky-panky going on like that. The pure love, the real love. That's what I used to see before. I mean, even back in the 70s, early 70s, when I would see women who had hot pants on, the couple of dudes in the barbershop, hey, man, she got some shape, whatever. But when she comes in there, they would give her just as much respect, even if she wasn't on a level of knowing that, hey, you keep yourself covered, do this and that. Women are beautiful even without that. You understand? And that real female vibe, not the manufactured whorish vibe. You understand? But out in the street, now, bro, what you do behind closed doors, get into what you want to get into as long as you consenting adults and you're committed to each other. But out in the street, even when you see a prostitute, titties hanging out and everything, give her that respect and love. She'll figure, damn, how did I get that? All the other men are stopping, going around the corner 50 million times, asking me how much. And this man looked me dead in my eye and treated me with respect. That could be the very time, the very seed planted in that young lady's mind to bring herself up out of what she's doing and show her the respect when she knows that in the world, she won't get it. And the same for our brothers, even when they're down and out, as long as they don't disrespect you. And sometimes when they do, they say, listen, you don't disrespect me like that. You're supposed to be a brother. You're supposed to be strong. If we got together and it was a mutual thing, fine. But don't call me that word. Don't look at me that way. You have daughters, you have children, you have a mother. Would you want them to be treated that way? We got to self-correct each other and not be afraid to stand on truth, because truth will protect you, because it will resonate to a person who's on the level of a beast. What do they say? Music calms the savage beast. Truth does the same thing to the savage beast. So those of us who are off the mark as savage beasts in our community, you got to walk in truth and you'll straighten those situations out each and every time. Let me just get ready to run. I got to take this shower. I want to come back and talk a little bit, and I still have to make the link for Positively Angela's show, which is going to be at 8 o'clock, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Different time zones, just count back accordingly. And I do love you all. And I'm here, and like I said, I love the fellowship and I love what we do. And mind you, I said what we do. It's not me. I'm just a vessel. I'm just a plate, a platform, a plate. You're all of the food with the good nutrition and the things that you share in the chat room and make happen. I serve that wholeheartedly with every moment of my day. If I'm not online, or maybe I miss a day, I'm behind, I'm under the hood doing something. If I'm down by the mall or walking with Mr. SCURV, it's in my mind what I want to create and bring. And I'm always open to ideas and suggestions. This is an open source platform where we all can put our hand in and make a difference. You see? So anyway, let me get ready to run, and I will see you soon. You know, I'll come back on, and I do want to do, if I'm up later on, I'm going to do a nice little recording like I did, because I have a lot of things that I can only express in that way. You know what I mean? So that's what it's all about. But let me go, and I will talk to you all later. LANCESCURV out for now. On to the next one. Peace.
John Hawkins showed up in our country, telling us of a land filled with luxury. He said, black man, follow me to America. There you'll find more gold for your labor. Our foreparents were tricked onto his boat. Since that time we've been wrestling with the gold. We landed here in Jamestown, Virginia, 400 years to suffer. So my friend, it's easy to tell, white man heaven is black man hell. When the slave master wanted to have some sport, He would heap on our parents' cruelties of the worst sort, burn them at stake, hang them on trees. His ears were deaf to our parents' pleas. Though you were pregnant, black woman, you pull the plow like a horse, like a dog, even a cow. He filled your womb with his wicked seed. His half-white children you were made to breed. Oh, my friend, it's easy to tell. White man heaven is a black man hell. So-called Negro, open up your eyes. Black man everywhere is on the rise. He has kicked the white man out of Asia, and he's going fast out of Africa. With every ounce of strength and breath, his cry is give us liberty or give us death. The whole black world has their eyes on you to see what the so-called Negro is going to do. So my friend, it's easy to tell, our unity will give the white man hell. God made a promise to Abraham, his seed would be a stranger in a foreign land. They would suffer and be afflicted 400 years, but he would come, wipe away their tears. Our God and Savior, Allah has come. He has declared the white man's day is done. He has given us a divine messenger, one prophesied to come. His name is Elijah. We now can stand up, the whole world to tell. Our God has come to give us heaven and take the devil into hell. Why are we called Negroes? Why are we deaf, dumb, and blind? Why is everybody making progress, yet we seem to be lagging so far behind? Why are we mistreated? Why are we in this condition, stripped of our names, our language, our culture, our God, and our religion? Here in America, all of our religious training has been gotten by the preacher. He has told us of a heaven way up in the sky that we can't enjoy now, but rather after we die. But all of the years that we're living, for us there's nothing but hell, pain, torture, and misgiving. Yet the Bible speaks of a heaven filled with material luxury, which the white man and the preacher has right here, so we see. So my friend, take it for what it's worth. Your heaven and your hell is right here on this earth. So let's check back into history, which rewards all research and tells us plainly. Before the white man gained entry to the East, he was living in the caves of Europe, a ravenous beast, eating juniper roots and eating flesh raw, till God sent Moses to civilize him and teach him the law. Then, following Marco Polo, an explorer, he gained entry into Asia and Africa. From China he took silk and gunpowder. From India he took jute, manganese and rubber. He raped Africa of her diamonds and her gold. From the Mideast he took barrels of oil untold. Raping, robbing and murdering everything in his path. The whole black world has tasted of the white man's wrath. So my friend, it's not hard to tell. A white man's heaven is a black man's hell. Before we came to America, we were living in the East. By the Nile River, we were living in luxury, enjoying freedom, justice, and equality. We wore silken robes and slippers of gold. We were the wealthiest and the wisest people, I'm told. Now we are the poorest of the poor. Nobody wants us at their door. So my friend, it's easy to tell. White man heaven is black man hell. When the white man came to America, he told the Indian, I am your white brother. He said, red man, I'll treat you the best. Yet and still he pushed the Indian further west with his white woman and fire water. With tricks and lies he stole America. The original owner of this nation is cooped up on a reservation. So my friend, it's easy to tell. White man heaven is black man hell. He needed someone to work the land. His back was too weak. He needed you, black man, so he commissioned Sir John Hawkins to commit the world's most grievous sin, to take a man who's born to be free and bring him down to slavery, to sell a man as merchandise. On his body put a price. Oh, my friend, it's easy to tell. White man heaven is black man hell.
Hey, this is Oscar Gloria. You're listening to the LANCESCURV Show.
For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out.